once again for joining us on Talking Fight, another episode of the Olympics featuring Christian from the Friday night panel, who's going to speak to us today about boxing. And what have you found out today, Christian?
Well, Graham, we've been doing a lot of these shows over the last little while. It kind of started off on the doom and gloom front, which, that's just what the headlines have had for us as of late. But fortunately today, we get to start off something a little bit of a happier note in saying congratulations to British boxer Fraser Clark on the recent birth of his son. So they recently sat down and did an interview about this. And so new father Fraser Clark reckons that his firstborn son is intensifying his hunger for his long-awaited Olympic debut. But the Burton boxer is insisting that the hectic events over the last 7 days have had no impact on his preparation for the crucial upcoming European Olympic qualifier to be staged in Paris next week. So super heavyweight Clark, who's 29 years old, has been constantly trekking up and down the M1. It's one of the major highways in the UK, for those of you who don't know, after his partner Danny gave birth to their second child, Trent, last week. So Clark has been juggling those life-changing commitments with the training for the upcoming Olympic qualifier event in Paris, where he's set to face Croat Marko Milić in a key bout to book his spot in Tokyo. The 2018 Commonwealth champion says that the arrival of Trent has got him hungrier than ever, but insists that it has not been a detriment to his preparation with the first shot at Japan looming. Clark said, "Honest to God, not that I needed any more motivating, but he's definitely been a lift. It's been an emotional week with the birth of my son. We're literally getting down to the business end of qualifications now. He's really motivated me. It was one of the best moments of my life. Him and my daughter Mila, their presence and them being around is willing me on so much more." Now, he did stress, however, that he was motivated prior to this, but said that there is nothing like the birth of your firstborn son to give you a little boost, saying that he has been amazing. So regarding the birth and time away from training, what Clark said is, he said, "I took all the safety precautions possible. I was PPE'd up to death in that hospital. I left at 3:30 in the morning. That's 3:30 for anyone on this side of the pond. Got home at 4:30, and he was born. I stayed with him that day and that night, and the next morning I was back in Sheffield joining in with the guys." So Clark soared to Commonwealth glory in the Gold Coast and is the 2017 European Games silver medalist, but so far remains, has not quite made it to an Olympic Games as of yet. So he has been around, though, for the better part of the last decade, but he also knows that success in Paris is going to cap, and obviously the ticket to Tokyo is going to be a cap of, let's try this in English, and his ticket to Tokyo are really going to be a highlight for him in what has up until now been something of a turbulent career. So best of luck to Fraser Clark and the whole Clark family, as a matter of fact, including the most recent addition, Trent, on moving forward, and also on his on Fraser's European qualifiers next week. We will be watching with great interest on that. But moving along, though, and away from our friends across the pond here, we'll talk a little bit about our friends in Africa. So the chairperson of the Namibia Professional Boxing and Wrestling Control Board, Margaret Mengo, yesterday, it was not yesterday, it was a couple of days ago now, said that the board is hard at work in reviewing the current Boxing and Wrestling Control Act of 1980. Very soon, a new draft of that act was going to be shared with stakeholders for their input. So Mengo recently said that they were currently sitting down with the draft of the act left behind by the previous board, and the plan is now to incorporate various components of the outdated act and those of that draft in order to come up with one solid document that will then be submitted to the line minister. So what Mengo said was, "At the onset, allow me to acknowledge and thank the previous board for their input on the current draft. The board is currently seized with the revision of the act. Part of our process is that we are going to call stakeholders meetings to review the act before we submit it to the line ministry for cabinet submission. We want all stakeholders to own the final document." Okay. So what are we talking about? An outdated Boxing Act, which was enacted in 1980 during apartheid Southwest Africa, prohibits women from participating in boxing and makes no provision for the development of female boxers at any level. The current act is also out of tune with the ever-changing dynamics of modern-day boxing. Various boxing pundits in Namibia have over the years been calling for the immediate amendment of the current act, saying that it is inhumane and undemocratic for women to be denied sporting opportunities in a free and independent Namibia. Upon taking over as chairperson, Mengo said that one of her key priorities was to work on the current act in order to ensure that it speaks to the aspirations of all Namibians. Mengo was appointed chairperson of the Boxing Control Board this year. Her term of office is going to run for the next 3 years. So maybe just a little, little late, unfortunately, that they're just getting around to this now. But, it is great to see, another nation taking positive steps forward to include women in combat sports. And, just as a general move towards greater equality and representation within our sport specifically. So as we see, anything that comes along from that, we'll keep you guys updated once that we see the new reviewed act on that, and hopefully we see something hit the cabinet the government for cabinet submission sooner rather than later. But let's take a look now, Graham, over at the ASBC Asian Boxing Championships that are currently ongoing. A quartet of defending champions advanced to the semifinals of the Asian Boxing Championships in Dubai, as medalists were decided in 6 more of the men's divisions. Uzbekistan's Bobo Usman Bardarov was among them, as the nation enjoyed another impressive day at the Asian Boxing Confederation event, with all 6 of their boxers progressing. Badarov is the defending welterweight champion at the 69 kilogram and under category, and overwhelmed Asian Youth Championship Nuradan Rustamabek Ulu of Kyrgyzstan, and was at least 30-26 winner at the end in all 5 of the judges' scorecards. World Asian Super Heavyweight Champion Bakhodr Jalalov of Uzbekistan has additionally progressed, but that one was via walkover. India's Amit Pangal, the returning under 52 kilogram champion, who was expecting to fight at home before the event was moved from India to the United Arab Emirates in response, as we know, to the coronavirus crisis, found the going a little bit harder in his quarterfinal match. Facing Mongolia's Enkmendak Karku, the Indian did eventually win, but it was a split decision 3-2 on the judges' scorecards. There was better luck for Karku's compatriot, Erden Ibet Senbator, the under 60 kilogram king, who outclassed Kyrgyzstan's Munarbek Saitbek Ulu and collected a 5-0 victory there. Kazakhstani fighter Bek Nuragmanbek was the other defending champion in action, but unfortunately he did suffer a shock defeat. Maysam Geshlagi of Iran triumphed 4-1 on the judges' scorecards in the light heavyweight quarterfinal. Uzbekistan's Dilshadbek Ruzmatov, seeded second in the division and a silver medalist at the 2019 World Championships, where he lost to Nurdaulatov in the final, was victorious on the other side of the draw. The Asian Championships are ongoing, and those were the medals that were decided over the last 24 hours. And we're going to be keeping you guys updated as we get closer and closer to the end of that one, due to run right through until the 1st of June. But Graham, that's what we've got for today, taking a quick look around the rings around the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was letting our viewers know that the Asian Elite Championships are going on as we speak, and they're being streamed on YouTube, possibly as well through the AIBA site. But they're pretty up to date. And right now it's the women who are going toe-to-toe. And as I said yesterday, providing a lot of great entertainment. These guys are swinging for the fences. There's not a lot of time to feel each other out, jab and pose. It's very much hit or miss. But
well, the amateur game is a fast game. You got to remember that. We're not looking for knockouts. Knockouts are great when they happen, but we're looking at points scored. So you don't have time. You don't have 2 or 3 rounds to feel out your opponent to figure out where their weaknesses are. You got to get in there and you got to start throwing early, especially at this point where we're getting closer to the games. You want to land those punches.
Absolutely.
I know, on that same equality front that we were talking about there, it's worth pointing out, and I know we mentioned before that this is the first championship where they're actually offering cash prizes at the end through the AIBA and their partnership with JSC Gazprom. But equal prize money is being given. I don't know if we covered that or not, to both the male and female fighters. So a gold medal is a gold medal, a silver is a silver, or a bronze is a bronze, regardless of gender on this one, which hasn't always been the case in professional sports or amateur sport. We usually see a bit more of a gap, a wage gap there.
Yep.
To answer.
My simple point yesterday, as opposed to your professional point, was it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch these guys go at it. Especially.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully we'll be adding some Namibian boxers to some of these international tournaments on the female side sooner rather than later. To answer Big T's question there regarding British athletes being told that they have to take the vaccine before going to Tokyo and asking, is that down to your national governing body? Absolutely. Right now, it is up to the individual the National Olympic Committee, or NOC, for each country as to whether or not they're going to be vaccinating their athletes, as well as which vaccine those athletes will be receiving. For example, we saw in Brazil, we saw that the athletes were receiving Pfizer vaccines, whereas the general public, or the vaccines that were being given to the general public as part of that deal, were coming, I believe they were the Sinovac out of China vaccines. So each individual NOC is going to be deciding whether they get a vaccination and what vaccination they will be receiving. Because some of these are going to be viral vector vaccines, and some of these are going to be the newer, the mRNA vaccines. So keeping that in mind, Japan, Tokyo, has not said that anyone needs a vaccine at this point in time. So that is still up to the individual NOC. And I think the reasoning behind this partially is their commitment to social distancing and how they say that they're going to be able to run a very successful games without it turning into a spreader event or a super spreader event. But at the end of the day, the decision was kind of made, in my opinion, that it would be seen as discriminatory, especially early on before Pfizer and the Chinese government started offering free vaccines to athletes going to the games. It would have been viewed as discriminatory for athletes that were coming from nations whose vaccine rollout maybe wasn't as far along and wouldn't necessarily be able to have access to a vaccine in time for the Olympic Games themselves. So we didn't want to start seeing people get disqualified on that front. So so far, the only thing we're relying on is 2 negative tests within 96 hours of leaving for Japan, another negative test upon arrival in Japan, as well as a fully documented 14-day itinerary, where you're going to go, who you're going to be dealing with, and you're going to have to stick to that as close as possible. They're only allowed to move into the Olympic Village within 5 days of their event starting, and they've got to be out of the Olympic Village within 48 hours of their events finishing. So they're doing everything they can to keep this safe without pushing vaccinations to the detriment of athletes who wouldn't necessarily have access. Well, going on a bit of a ramble there.
That's okay, because while you were rambling, our producer has shown us a report from ESPN with respect to the British deciding to offer the Pfizer vaccination to their Olympians.
Okay, well that was on the 16th of May is where that came from. And if anyone's got the insight on this one, it's going to be Big T for sure. So, and as he said here, they have been told to take the vaccine. So whether that is a recommendation or at this point in time, or if the National Board in Britain has said that, no, you are taking this or you're not coming with us, that I don't know.
Good point. Well, thank you very much for your report, Christian. Appreciate it. Thanks very much for the input from all our viewers around the world. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.
I'll be here.
Thank you. 2 p.m. tomorrow.